Hi, I'm Valentina and welcome everyone to this monthly presentation of ECLAIR. Release 3.13.0 of the ECLAIR software verification platform is coming over in the next few weeks. In this presentation, our speaker, Simone, Field Application Engineer here at BUGSENG, will show you through some of the many new features in this new version. This presentation will focus on some of them like interface with DevOps, GitLab, and IDEs like MPLabX, a brand new service useful to identify specific patterns in the code, for instance, any SPDX licenses you may have introduced. We will see how ECLAIR implements misera deviation permits without having to write specific configurations, and then we'll dive into the newly integrated requirements management tool. The presentation will therefore be useful both for those who are already users of the tool, as you can stay up to date with the most recent additions, and for those who are looking into evaluating the tool. You are definitely in the right place.
Hi everybody, and welcome to this 40 minutes presentation. Okay, my name is Simone, and I'm a file application engineer at BUGSENG. Let's start with the presentation. Okay, during the last decade, continuous integration and continuous deployment systems have become an essential part of every professional development. Nowadays, carrying out a project without test batteries that run at each commit is very uncommon, especially in safety and security critical projects. So this should not be limited just to integration and unit testing as usual, but it should also include the static analysis. When someone introduces, a user violation in your project, the security managers need to immediately note that and act as soon as possible in the most efficient way. ECLAIR can be used in many ways, and one of them is by command line. This is very important because these make ECLAIR suitable to be seamlessly integrated to any continuous integration system. In particular, in ECLAIR 3.13, we have improved the support for two of the most popular versioning services in the market that are GitLab and GitHub. So let's have a look at how it works in GitLab. GitHub is more or less the same, so don't worry, if you are using GitHub, you can have the same features you will show in a couple of minutes. Okay, this is our website, and we have a demonstration section. You just have to click here where it's written eclairit.com. So this is the demonstration section, and from this section you can get in touch with various examples of continuous integration deployment system in Jenkins, in GitLab, and in GitHub. So let's click on GitLab, and now you can see that here we have a couple of projects. Some of them are very big and popular open source projects, like the trusted firmware from ARM and the Zephyr real-time operating system. But we have also a project called the ECLAIR demo that's a showcase to demonstrate all the features of what you can obtain integrating ECLAIR with your GitLab or GitLab integration server. Okay, let's have a look to the ECLAIR demo project. So you can now immediately see that we have a couple of pages, both in this top area of the repository page. I can zoom in a little bit, and also in this preview of the README file. Okay, let's talk a little bit about these pages. Okay, so as you can see, we have two lines of pages, two rows. The reason is that we have decided to implement two different kinds of analysis. One is called ECLAIR normal, and other one is called ECLAIR final. They both compute an analysis on the full project, but the main difference between the two is that ECLAIR final also produces a very wide range of reports in various formats, and this is more intended to produce some evidence when your assessor or your safety manager need to check the MISRA compliance of your project. Okay, and then for each row we have two badges. Okay, the reason is very simple. We have this repository has two branches. One is called main, and the other one is called MISRA fixes. So we run an analysis for both branches. Okay, let's focus on a specific badge. So here you can see that we have a green section, and in this, let me zoom in a little bit more. And in this green section, there are some information about the analysis. So now we can see that this last analysis has fixed. This last commit has fixed two violations versus than the previous analysis, and now this commit does not introduce any new violation and still remain unfixed 32 violations. Okay, now let's jump, let's click on the page and see what we have. So this is just a summary page about the analysis. So this analysis has been triggered by this commit that has been pushed on the main branch. And here we can see the same information of before, but we can also see that we have two databases. So this may be surprising. So why we have two databases? And the reason is very simple, because only in the previous database we can see the two fixed reports, and only in the current one we can see the new ones. Of course, the common reports, the 32 still unfixed reports, can be seen in both databases. Okay, and then we have also a button to see all the analysis. Okay, and if I go back, I can navigate all the analysis. I can go back again. And for example, here we can see that we have that this commit has introduced 4 new violations. So now let's imagine that I'm a project manager and I want just to focus my attention on the 4 new violations introduced in the code base. I just have to jump into the database. So this is the usual ECLAIR interface. This is the same interface you have when using ECLAIR locally. So if you already use ECLAIR, you should be already familiar with this interface. So let's jump into the results. Okay, so we have many violations, but if I want to focus my attention just on the new reports, I have already created a filter called new violation, and this filter show only the reports where in the previous database they are missing. So, and now I can immediately see that this commit has introduced 2 new violations of this rule from MISRA rule 14.4, a new violation of rule 12.2, and another new violation of rule 10.7. And this could be very, very useful for a safety manager or for a developer that wants just to focus its attention on the new violation. So let me go back a little bit. So I want just to return to the GitLab interface. Okay, this here. And now let's move to the pipeline section of GitLab. So I just have to hover with mouse here. Now select this pipeline entry here. Okay, so here we can see all the workflow triggered by the integration. So, and you may notice that some of them are passed and some of them are blocked. And the reason why they are blocked is that they contain the analysis job called ECLAIR final. And so since this job, as we have said before, produce a lot of artifacts, we have decided that we have to manually trigger this job. So if I want to run a file panel, I have to click here and okay, I can't, but here I will have a play button, and in this way I can start the analysis. I can't because I'm not logged into the GitLab project. Okay, now let me go back and let's have a look to a random pipeline. Okay, for example, this one. So if I click here, I can see the commit thread. So each commit has a thread, and in this thread, I can see the changes contained in the commit, and I can see a couple of messages written by the ECLAIR integration. So at each commit, an analysis is triggered, and the integration will write a message with the results of the analysis. Okay, in this case, we have many messages because simply because we have more than one branch, and we have the results for each branch. And I have the same information we have seen before, but I can also directly jump to the results clicking this browse analysis link. Okay, let me go back to the pipeline section of GitLab, and let's have a look to the to the job section of the same commit. So yeah, we can see that this pipeline contains two jobs, ECLAIR final and also ECLAIR normal. Let's see what we have inside a job. Here we can see all the logs from the analysis, and now again all the information about the analysis and a direct link to the results. And now if I want, I can also download all the artifacts produced by the analysis, or I can directly browse them on the browser. But now let's talk about one of the most interesting features of this kind of systems like GitHub and GitLab, that are the pull request, or maybe or otherwise in the GitLab terminology, merge requests. So let me go to the merge request section. So this project contains a merge request called additional misrefixes. So let me go into it, and here we have this user, Simone Ballarin, that has requested to merge the branch misrefixes into the main branch. And here we can see that for each commit on the source branch of the merge request, an analysis is triggered. And this is very, very useful for the person that is in charge to evaluate, to review the merge request. So, for example, let's suppose that I am the reviewer of this pull request, So I can immediately see the results of the analysis, and maybe I can see that this proposal of merge request has introduced 4 new violations in the code base, and I can write to the submitter of the merge request in this merge request thread. I can write something like, hey, your work is very good, but you have introduced 4 new violations. Can you fix them? And then I will be able to reevaluate your work and accept it. And then the submitter can do additional work, can provide more comments to the source branch, and then ECLAIR will reanalyze and send a new message in this thread with the new results, and then the reviewer of the merge request will be able to see the new results and decide if accepting or not the merge request. So, and this in a merge request based workflow is very useful. Okay, so that's all for this very quick preview of what you can obtain integrating ECLAIR with a continuous integration system like GitHub or GitLab. Now let's move to another new feature introduced by ECLAIR. That's the support for the MPLabX IDE from Microchip. This is not the only new supported IDE. ECLAIR 3.13 has support also for all NetBeans-based IDEs, and this of course includes also MPLabX. And also we have added the support for all IntelliJ-based IDE, including Selenium. That's a very nice IDE that I strongly suggest for C, and in particular for C++ development. By the way, let's have a look to MPLabX. Okay, just a moment. Okay, this is MPLabX, and it's a NetBeans-based IDE. So you may be familiar with it also if it's the first time you see MPLabX. And it's already open in one of our demo projects. Okay, this demo project will be available along with many others to all of you when ECLAIR 3.13 will be released. So don't worry, if you will be able to test what you will see in this presentation by yourself as soon as ECLAIR 3.13 will be released. Okay, so and we are currently in a verification and validation phase, so it's just a matter of weeks. Okay, before start, let me introduce the project. This is a very tiny open source C project written by Michael Barr in order to demonstrate his coding standard Bar C 2018. And this project is in the public domain, but it's not the original project. I have made some changes to make it more interesting for this presentation. Okay, let's see what we have here. This is the internal editor of the IDE. Yeah, we have just in this left panel, we have the properties of the project in this dashboard, and we have also the structure of the project in this windows here. And now we can see that in particular we have this section called ECLAIR tasks, and inside it we have 4 different actions. So the first one is called ECLAIR pool, and this action perform a complete analysis of your project. Instead, the second one is called ECLAIR file, and this analysis just analyze the currently open file in the editor. This is we have decided to implement this kind of analysis because in this way a developer has a very quick and raw way to have a preview of the quality of his work, just to have an idea of what he is doing. Okay, then we have ECLAIR final. So this is more or less the same kind of analysis of ECLAIR full. The only difference is that this kind of analysis produces a wide range of reports in various formats. And then finally, we have ECLAIR STU. STU stands for Single Translation Units. And this kind of analysis does not perform the project-wide analysis. So it's faster than the normal ECLAIR full. And also in this case, this analysis is intended to have a general overview of the quality of the code. Yes, a very quick and broad overview. Good. Now here instead we have this ECLAIR menu. From this ECLAIR menu we can enable the plugin, and then we can disable, stop with a browser. But when a report will be available, we can navigate the reports with this section here. Okay, now let's run an analysis. I just have to double click on an analysis action. For example, this one. Here I can see some logs about the analysis, and when the analysis is finished, my default browser will appear with the results of the analysis. So in this case, the project is very tiny, so the analysis is very fast. And here we can see the user interface, the interactive reports view. So let's jump directly to the results of the analysis, and let's see a couple of reports. So let's talk about this service here, b.textfind. This is a brand new service introduced by ECLAIR 3.13 that can be used to find occurrences of particular patterns on your project. And the main application we had in mind when developing this new service was the really picky problem about licensing. So for different reasons, a developer may be tempted to introduce open source code in your project without putting too much attention on the licensing. And in this way, may happen that he or she introduces code with licenses that are not compatible with the commercial software or with the closed source software. And this is a very big problem. And when this happens, the project manager absolutely need to know that as soon as possible. And this is the reason why we have decided to implement this service here, b.textfind. Okay, let's see the only report we have here. So the report comes from this feature_x.h file. That is not part of the original microbars project. I have added this file, and I have decided that this file is licensed with the Apache 2.0 license. And now a project manager, when a developer does something like that, can immediately see a new report of this service, and he can immediately know that an Apache 2.0 license has been introduced in the code base and can act in the proper way. Okay, so let's go back and see another results, another service. For example, rule 14.3 from Misra. That's here. Okay. Yeah. Instead, this is a Misra rule And the rule says controlling expression shall not be invariant. And also in this case, we have just a violation, but here we can notice test that this violation is tagged as safe. Okay, let's see the violation before talking about the tag. So this violation is caused by the fact that, as we can see on the preview, here we have a macro compared with integer constant. And if we go to the code, if we see the code after the preprocessing, we can see that in this particular build, the macro is expanded in an integer constant. And this is, of course, this comparison is always invariant. And this is the reason of the violation. But MISRA in 2020 has released a document called MISRA Deviation Permits 2020, and in this document contains some pre-approved deviation by MISRA, and from this version of ECLAIR, from ECLAIR 3.13, we have decided to support all these deviation permits. So you just need to tell ECLAIR that you want to use the specific permit that is written on the MISRA document, and ECLAIR will automatically deviate all the violation, reporting that the reason of the deviation is that there is a deviation permit in the MISRA C 2012 deviation permit documents, and the ID of the permit is this one, rule 14.3A1. And so in this way, you don't need to write a configuration to implement the MISRA permit. Is already pre-configured. You just have to enable the permit. Okay, let's go back and let's see another violations, other violation. For example, the ones from this rule here. Also in this case, this rule is from MISRA. It's rule 7.5, and it says that the argument of an integer constant macro shall have an appropriate form. Okay, this is a new rule introduced by Amendment 3. And ECLAIR 3.13 introduced the support for MISRA C 2012 Amendment 3. Okay, and let's see, for example, a violation. Here we have that inside this macro width, there is a use of uint 8_c. That is not a bare octal, decimal, or hexadecimal integer literal. Of course, I cannot see the violation from this preview, but since the macro is involved, ECLAIR also provides where the macros is defined. And in this case, macro wide is defined in this way by line 23 of this file. And then I can also see the definition of the bits per bytes macro, and here we can see the real violation. So this ability of tracking the macros is not a new feature of ECLAIR, but is one of the most appreciated ones. In fact, we did a post-synthesis work for the Zephyr real-time operating system, and the Zephyr real-time operating system is a macro over a macro over a macro over a macro, and so on. And without this ability of ECLAIR of tracking the macro function and showing me the code after the preprocessing, as we have seen in the previous example, we would be completely lost. By the way, let's return to the violation of rule 7.5. Okay, now I want to fix this violation, and I want to do it using the integration with MPLabX, with the MPLabX IDE. I just click here on this hamburger menu and click this button here, edit this area. Otherwise, I can keep pressed the control button and click on one of these links. Okay, now let me open the IDE, and I can see that the editor now is showing me the exact location of the violation. And if I expand this console, just give me a minute. I want to expand this console here. Oops. We are. Okay, here we can see the same information we were seeing before. So I can navigate the reports. For example, now if I double click here, I can see the location of the violation. And so let me go to this. Sorry. So I want to go to sorry, just a moment. Okay. I just want to go to fix the reason of the violation. Okay, now I am in the place where the bits per byte macro is defined. So the reason of the violation is that we are using this extra u. So the information of the fact we want to use an unsigned integer is already embedded in this macro here. So this is completely unnecessary. So to fix the violation, we have to remove this u. Now I can save the file, I can rerun the analysis, and now I can return here, and when the analysis will be finished, I can see that now we have 21 violation, and now we have just C violation, because the violation was contained in a macro, and fixing the macro, we have fixed all the bad uses of the macro we have fixed. Now, for the new support for microchip MPLABX IDE is all. Now let's move on and let's talk about requirements. Requirements are very important as they help the team, one, to don't lose the target of the development, and two, to work in the most efficient way possible. Moreover, in a commercial optic, they define which is the intended product for which the customer is paying. I think that the importance of requirements is clear. So currently managing and tracking requirements has become fundamental nowadays. And for this reason, we have decided to couple the already present requirements tracking feature of ECLAIR with a new amazing requirements management tool based on the well-known open source project StreetDoc. This new tool, derived with the name of ECLAIR Recommend, allows your team to write project requirements in a very simple domain-specific language that can be easily exported in various formats. And the supported formats are Excel, so a spreadsheet format. Then we can export the results in HTML format. We can export the results in PDF formats. And ECLAIR Recommend support also the standard interchangeable format RECIF. So in this way, you will be able to use the requirements file, the requirement work you have done, also with other tools. So your work will not be product locked. Okay, so now let's have a look on the HTML version of the requirements document. So this is the HTML version, And I will use another demo project, and also in this case, the demo project will be available when ECLAIR 3.13 will be released. So let me click on, and the name of the project is generic sorting function. So let me click here, and now we have the document view of the requirements So here we can see that we have chapters and section about the project, the context of the requirements and so on. So we can add chapters, we can add section, we can add all the information we need to give a context to the requirements. And then we have the actual requirements. So for each requirement, we have a box. And in this gray part, there is the name of the requirement. So this is a very high level requirement. And the text of the requirement is provide sorting functionality for C arrays. So here we have a unique identifier of the requirement. So GSF is the name of the project, a generic sorting function. Then we have the name of the group, and the group in this case is system polls. So we can create groups of requirement to organize them. And then we have a progressive number and a version of the requirement. We can add a statement. The statement is just an amplification of the requirement, and then we can put also rationale when we can add additional information about the requirement and additional motivation and all the motivation for the specific requirement. Another feature of this tool is that we have the concept of parents and children. So, for example, this very high-level requirement has a couple of children requirements. So let's jump to one of them. This one, for example, this requirement instead is about code, but is still an high-level requirement. And the requirement says that the generic sorting function shall be based on an iterative version of the quicksort algorithm. So we can go more in depth to the hierarchy of to the hierarchical structure of the requirement. So let me click on this child requirement. So this is part of the group SS, that's software specification. This requirement is actually talking about how the code should be implemented. So here we can see that we have a very huge description, very technical, where we are literally writing how the code is intended to be written. And in this type of requirement, if we work in a requirement-based project, should be tracked into the code. And now, and this is where ECLAIR can add additional value to a standard requirement management system. Now, let's talk about section 5, where there are described the different kind of coverage we have decided to implement. So here we have decided to define different criteria of coverages. For example, the first one is implement. That means that there should be in the code base a piece of code that implements a specific requirement. And then we have the satisfy coverage criteria that is more generally about satisfaction and not about implementation, because implementation is a very specific term. That means that the code should implement the requirement, but here instead we just want that the code satisfies a requirement. Now let's move to the last three coverage criteria that in this case instead are about testing. So we have here test int. That means that there must be a test in the code base that tests the generic sorting function instantiated in for integers arrays. So generic in the sense of template, the sorting function. Then we have these test SWO criteria. That means that there must be a test where testing the sorting function using a strict weak ordering sorting function. And then finally, we have the final criteria of coverage about testing. That's test tract that requires that a particular requirement to be tested against an array of structures. And now let's see how ECLAIR can help you to keep track of these coverages of the requirements and to find anomalies on the use of the requirements. So I already ran an analysis of the generic sorting function project. So let's jump directly into the results. So here we have both violation and information reports about the b.rackman service. Now let's start with the good things, the information reports. And this is very simple. Here the tool is just informing us that this requirement here, that's part of the group external, is covering against the satisfy concept by criteria concept, coverage criteria satisfy by this function here. Instead, otherwise, we have this function here that implement this other requirement. So now let's talk about the maybe more interesting sections that are the violation. Let's see what the tool can provide us. So here we have a requirement that's part of this group that has no coverage for the test tract coverage criteria. So this means there is no test about structures for the requirement for this specific requirement. This is the same kind of evaluation, but instead here the problem is that we are not test about strict weak ordering functions. And then here instead we have a different kind of anomaly, sorry. So here we have an orphan one requirement that's part of the group orphan that has no coverage, that has no target coverage in the code. This means that we have created a requirement, but we haven't specified by which module of the code the requirement is intended to be satisfied or implemented in this case. So ECLAIR is able, when you create a requirement, you can define that the specific requirement X should be implemented by the specific module X. So if you are implementing or if you are coverage the requirement in a module that is unexpected, ECLAIR will provide you a warning as form as a violation of this service. Now let's go on, and we have another case. Here we have a macro called generic sorting function copy that has no associated requirement, and this is of course configurable. So ECLAIR, this service b.rackman can produce violation when you have some code that does not have any requirement associated. Okay, let's see the final one. So here we have a test And to this test, a comment that says that this test is intended to satisfy this requirement unknown ID, but of course this requirement does not exist, and this is the reason of the violation. Okay, so that's all for this quick presentation of some of the most interesting features of the new version of ECLAIR 3.13. And now we have a Q&A section. So if you have any question, I will be happy to answer to them. And of course, if you want, you can also drop us an email to the address eval@bugseng.com with all your questions if you prefer. So let's wait a couple of minutes for the question.
In the meantime, Simone, so thank you very much for this presentation. And we already have some questions, so let's go on and read them in the meantime. And also, if you have other questions, you can speak directly with Simone. So feel free to unmute your microphone and talk to Simone. Let's start with the question. The first one, is the service checking for traceability of requirements qualifiable for safety-related development?
Yes, ECLAIR is certified for safety critical development by TÜV according to several standards, and the specific service for the traceability of the requirements, that's b.Reckman, this service here, is part of the subset of ECLAIR that's certified for safety critical development. So the answer is yes, it is.
Thanks. Are the new features you have described subject to additional licensing costs?
Okay, now, so the licenses, the licensing structure is the same of the previous version of ECLAIR. So everything we have seen in this little preview is part of the P package, the basic package of ECLAIR. So you can do whatever you can have all the features we have seen in this presentation with the standard version of ECLAIR.
Okay, perfect. Do you have examples that can help me integrate ECLAIR within Jenkins, GitLab, and GitHub?
Yes, let me return to the ECLAIR website, to the BUGSENG website. Here, as I have showed before, we have a demonstration section where you can find demonstration service running Jenkins, GitLab, and GitHub. And from this website, you can take the scripts, take everything you need to implement your version of the integration.
Then, should more help be required for integration into CI systems? Are additional consulting services available?
Yes, of course. We provide consultancy for integrating your in your continuous integration system ECLAIR, where one of our file application engineer will join forces with your team to integrate ECLAIR in your pipeline in the most efficient way possible. So we have this kind of services.
Okay, thank you. I think that is the last one. Does the tool support different microprocessors / IDs?
Yes, ECLAIR supports more or less all the most popular processor, all the tool chains, all the most popular tool chains. But this is not a problem because we can add the support for a new tool chain in a week, in a couple of days. So we can do this in a very short time. And we support a wide range of IDEs. We support all NetBeans-based IDE. We support all IntelliJ-based IDE. We support all Eclipse-based IDE. That are a lot. And we also support the very popular nowadays Visual Studio Code. We support Visual Studio, Emacs, and many others. So we support a lot of IDEs.
Okay, Simone, many thanks.
I think we do not have more questions, so I want to say thank you for your participation.
Thank you very much, Simone, and thanks everybody for attending today's presentation. For any further questions, please get in touch with us writing an email to info@bugseng.com or eval@bugseng.com. And if you like how the tool works, and you haven't already, then you can move on and request a 30 days evaluation license, which is fully featured to allow you to really test the tool in your environment. This can be requested through a simple web form on our website, and I'll paste all links in the Q&A section in just a moment. To complete the picture, BUGSENG is also a renowned resource for advanced professional online training, covering especially MISRA and MISLA compliance, and is also known for its highly specialized consulting services. Right, that's it from us today. Have a nice weekend, everybody, and talk to you soon. Bye.